Okay, so we've introduced this idea of source control. Source meaning source code. The source code of a program is what you've written. And control meaning we want to have control over our source code, right? So source control. This is a way for us to control our source code. All right, so let's actually go in and create a project. So I'm going to pull up Visual Studio, and I'm going to say create a new project similar to what we've done in the past. We've been doing a console app. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'll call it Git Fun. Nothing like a little subliminal advertising, right? And then I'll make sure this box is checked. It's just, I prefer that when we're doing console projects, place solution and project in the same directory, and then say next, and then create. So this is going to build a new project for us. And here it is. So we've seen this. This is our default app with the hello world sitting in there ready for us to write a program. Now, many people will go in and write their code, and then almost like a last step, they go and then take their code and push it up to GitHub on the cloud, right? And in my mind, it's like you're losing many of the advantages of using source control. It's kind of like with my buddies. One time I was driving with them, and I pulled up Google Maps and plugged in the location, even though we knew exactly where we were going. And they were saying, why would you do that? You know where you're driving. And I said, yeah, no, I know absolutely where I'm going, but you lose all the advantages of having maps up while you're running, right? It tells you the speed limit. It tells you if there's an object on the road. It tells you if there's a speed trap. If there's an accident, it shows you that, and it'll try to reroute you. And so, yeah, there is this benefit of using it to navigate, but there's this whole other slew of benefits you could be getting beforehand. And so for me, when I create a project like this, I am immediately linking it to source control. And so the way that we do that in Visual Studio is I can click on this button right here that says Add to Source Control. Now you can get there by, if you're using Rider or a different system, you can get there by clicking Git and then going to, so here it'd be create Git repository. It's something like push repository. I can't remember exactly. We're going to work in Rider in a minute, and I'll take a look at those different options. But so however we get there, so I usually use this button, like I said, Add to Source Control. So I'm going to take and click on this, and it'll say, well, which one do you want to use? And you can go set up other versions of source control. But I'm going to use Git, like we've talked about. And then it says, okay, well, I'll first create a local Git repository here on the machine. And then I'm also going to create a new GitHub repository up on the cloud, up in the remote. And so I'm already logged in on this computer, obviously, because it just logged me right in. If you aren't logged in, I think it says something like add account here or something like that. You can click. And if you don't have a GitHub account, you can go to github.com, create an account for free, and then come back here and log in. And so the owner of this project is me, and the repository name is Git Fun. I could change that if I wanted to. And then important for our purposes here in this class, the visibility. And so if you create a free GitHub account, it's really cool actually that they store all this code for you, right? They provide this free service where you can have this source control, but it's limited. It's limited, so you can only have as many public repos as you want to. I think you can only have so many private repos, and then the big thing for us is you can only have 3 collaborators on a private repo if you're using the free tier. And this is why companies all over the place pay money, and that's how we get the free version, is because companies everywhere pay for GitHub to be able to use their source control services and have unlimited private repos and have support and other benefits, but also to be able to add as many collaborators as they want to. For us as graders to be able to see your code, this needs to be set to public. All right, now that means anyone on the internet can see the repository. That's true, but it also means that we can see your repository. If this is set to private, and this is a common mistake in our class, then you'll get docked. right off the bat. And so we need it to be set to public. And yeah, if you were working on something real, then you wouldn't want to do this, obviously. But for our assignments, this is totally fine. All right, so I'm going to set that equal to public, the visibility, and then I'm going to create and push. Now, again, it's going to create the local Git repo, but then it's also going to create a repo on GitHub. And so if I go look here and say github.com, and I sign in, if I can remember my password. All right, then I can see this Git fun repo that's just been updated. So this has all the files that I had in my my local project here on the machine, and it has, if I click in here, I can see the program CS. I can see that console.writeline hello world. All right, so that's how we get our code up to GitHub on the source control. We can see it's hooked up now. I'm hooked up to the Git fun repo. I'm on the master branch, and any changes I make will now get sent to well, let's make one, right? Let's watch it work, I guess, is probably a better thing to do. So let me write here console.writeline. This is a line of code. All right, so I add this line of code. Now, as soon as I do that, it's going to detect that there's a change that's been made. So I can see here by this red check that there's a pending edit there. And these are locked. They have this picture of a lock, meaning there's no changes there, but this one has a pending change. And so I can go click on this Get Changes tab, or if I can't see that, I can say View, Get Changes. And either way, it's going to show me, hey, I noticed some changes in the program CS file. Now, if I double click on this, it'll actually show me what the changes were. But anyway, I know what the changes were because I just made them. And so now I can take and add, so currently, if I save it, it's just saving to my local hard drive the files for the actual project. If I want to get these files to the Git repository, then I want to commit those. So I can say here, added, we usually want better notes than this, but you have to put in a message here. It says required, enter a message required. I added a line of code. All right, so then I can commit that. Now when I commit equals local. It's going to commit it to the local Git repository. And so it says that commit was created locally. So on my machine, the backup on my machine in that Git repository, not my original source files, but in the backup of my machine in that Git repository, it has now made that change. All right, but if I go to the cloud, if I go up to GitHub, the change isn't there, which makes perfect sense. I haven't sent it to the cloud. It's only on the local machine. And so in order to send it to the cloud, I am going to do what we call push. So I'm going to push these changes. And when I do this, push equals remote. Push equals cloud. So I'm going to push this. It's going to initiate that push, it says, and it sends it up to the origin master. And now up on the cloud, when I look at this, I'll be able to see those changes. So again, when we commit, we have to commit first, and committing goes to the local Git repository, and then the push takes the changes to the local Git repository and pushes them up to the remote server in the cloud, GitHub, to store those changes. All right, so that's how we set up our repository, and that's how we make changes to our repository. All right, next we'll look at how we fix mistakes we make in our repository in the next video. Spencer